Tech Cocktail Conversations, candid insights from startup founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders from around the globe.
Highlight is a mobile app that helps you learn more about the people around you. So the basic idea behind it is that if you're standing near me and you've also installed Highlight, your profile will show up on my phone. Assuming you have privacy settings that allow for that, I can see your photo, so I know it's you. I can see your name. I can see where you work. If you want me to, I can see what neighborhood you live in. I can see all the friends that we have in common. I can see all the other things we have in common, like if we went to the same school, or we're from the same hometown, or we like a lot of the same authors. And I can see a history of all the times that we've crossed paths before. And then if I'm walking down the street with my phone in my pocket and Highlight sees someone near me that it thinks I might find particularly interesting, it'll notify me. And that's basically it. It's a pretty simple app. There are no check-ins. It just runs in the background and tries to surface these interesting connections for you throughout the day. It's a space that I've been thinking about in some form for probably 6 or 7 years. It's always really interested me, this notion that the people in our lives, the people we become friends with, the people we marry, the people we do things with, the people we start companies with, they're the most important thing in the world. Yeah. Nothing influences our lives more, nothing affects our happiness more than the other people in our life. But the way that we find them, the way we learn about people is and always has been horribly random and inefficient, right? And we don't realize how bad it is because it's just always been that way. But there's so many stories that I would hear over the years that just made me think, man, that's so dumb that it works that way. Everything from friends moving to new cities and being kind of lonely for a year because it's hard to make a new group of friends when you move to a new city by yourself, or dating. Most people just walk around like ants for 5 or 10 years, hoping that by randomness they'll intersect paths with the person of their dreams. Yeah. Or people trying to find co-founders and taking months and months and months to do that. Or you're traveling and you're in a foreign city. I bet you anytime you go there, you probably have 20 friends of friends that live there that would be up for grabbing a drink. But you don't know who they are, so you wander around cafes or meetups and conferences. The average one you go to, there are probably 1 or 2 people you should definitely connect with, but you probably end up talking to the 2 people you already know, or to the person next to you who's working on something totally unrelated. And it's just a bad system, right? And there are all these situations that I was looking at going, man, if you could just sort of take this bird's eye view of the world and take 2 people and go like that, you make the world so much better. You create all these amazing friendships and marriages and connect people who start companies that change the world. And so that was the problem that I wanted to work on. That's what I wanted to try and solve. And it's funny, if you look at what has happened in the online world over the last 5 or 10 years, a few things are pretty clear. One is we love talking about ourselves, right? We love sharing the cool bands we know about and the fun vacations we've been on and talking about the schools we've been to and the companies where we worked, and we create these profiles and post updates all the time, and we love hearing about other people. We spend hours and hours just looking at our feeds, and when you're going to meet with someone, you look at their LinkedIn profile, and we're just naturally curious creatures. We love to do it. And what most existing social services have done over the last 5 or 10 years is they've made it dramatically easier to share and to learn about people online. And that's a very powerful thing. So now instead of writing letters to 1,000 of your friends or even emailing 1,000 of your friends to tell them about some restaurant you're going to, you can just take that information and just put it up into the ether in your feed. And if people want to consume it, they can, but they don't have to. And then mobile cameras came along and all these other technologies came along and made it easier and easier. And all of a sudden, sharing stuff online, learning about people online, it is orders of magnitude easier than learning about people. It made it orders of magnitude easier to learn about people. And so sharing activity online has gone up by orders of magnitude, and it's doubling every year because we just love to do it, right? But in the physical world, it's still really filled with friction. The way I describe it sometimes, any city is like this, but take San Francisco as an example where we're based. It's just a city of 800,000 strangers. And we sit on the bus next to each other, we stand in line next to each other, we go to bars and meetups to meet each other, we walk by each other on the street, and we don't know anything about anyone that we see. And you have to think about that because it doesn't seem weird, right? That's just the way it's always been. But if you think about that in the context of how we like to interact online, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that we just don't know anything. We walk around blind. But just like the web enabled Facebook and these other services, 10 years ago, or whenever we started to see them become more popular, we're at a point in time where we have all this new technology, all these new pieces of web infrastructure that are going to completely change sharing in the real world. So smartphones are just now becoming ubiquitous. Facebook and online identity systems are just now becoming ubiquitous. Battery life is just now at the point where it's good enough. We can just now run mobile apps in the background. We're just now getting push notifications. Location technology is just now getting good enough, and it's only getting better with, Wi-Fi fingerprinting of indoor spaces and Bluetooth Low Energy and all these other services. And all of a sudden, we have this ability to use this device that we're all carrying around with us at all times and just broadcast a little profile, a little bit of information about ourselves with the people around us. And it's a really big deal. And I'm just completely convinced that in 10 years, 15 years, whatever the number is, this will just exist. And it's going to be like a sixth sense that we all have, where you can walk into a room and assuming their privacy settings allow for it, you'll be able to look at any person and just know their name and know where they work and know what friends you have in common with them and know like all the other stuff that you have in common with them. And you'll have something that surfaces the more interesting connections around you. Like that woman knows your mother, and that guy went to your grade school a year before you, and that girl likes all the same obscure authors that you like. And we're going to look back on this and say, I can't believe we didn't used to have that. I can't believe we used to just walk around and, look, and not know anything about anyone. Like, how do we get by? How do we navigate the world? Just like we do with cell phones today, right? Like, what do we do before we can instantly, magically communicate with anyone in the world? How do we get by? How do we meet up with people? And how on earth was that just 10, 15 years ago? Yeah. Or the internet, or Wikipedia, or Google Maps. I mean, so that's what we're trying to build. It's not about meeting people. It's not some matchmaking thing. It's really just something that surfaces that metadata, surfaces that information, and provides this new layer of connectivity. It's fun. It's really hard, but if you can do it, it just makes the world better.